The second I opened the door, I knew something was wrong. The police officer standing on my porch had that look, calm but firm, the kind that said he was already making judgments about me before I even had a chance to speak. Behind him, Lauren stood with Noah on her hip, tears streaming down her face, pointing a shaking finger past me, straight into my home. My stomach twisted as I turned, following her gaze to Jess, who stood just inside the hallway, arms crossed, face set like stone, refusing to be intimidated. The air between them was electric with unspoken accusations. And for a second, the only sound was Noah sniffling into his mother's shoulder before Lauren's voice cut through the silence like a blade. "She's threatening me. She told me I have to leave, or she's going to make my life hell. I don't feel safe here anymore." Jess let out a sharp laugh, disbelief flashing across her face before she turned to me. "Are you hearing this? Is this really happening right now?" The cop cleared his throat, shifting his weight. "Sir, we received a call about harassment and a possible domestic situation. We need to understand what's going on here." I clenched my jaw, my pulse hammering in my temples as I stepped onto the porch, shutting the door behind me so we wouldn't have an audience from the neighbors. My voice was level, but I could already feel the anger simmering beneath the surface. "What's going on is that Lauren and I broke up a year ago. I let her and Noah stay here rent-free so they wouldn't struggle. I've never forced them out, never called the police on her, never given her a reason to feel unsafe. But now, suddenly, because my girlfriend lives here too, I'm the bad guy." Lauren's face twisted with hurt and fury, but I could see the calculation in her eyes. "You act like you're some hero for letting us stay, but I've been the one taking care of everything. You think I had anywhere else to go? You think I could just pack up my child and leave? And now you bring her in, and expect me to just live under the same roof with some stranger who hates me?" Jess scoffed. "I don't hate you, Lauren. I hate that you're manipulating him. I hate that you're weaponizing Noah to keep control over a man who's been more than fair to you." She turned to the officer, her hands clenched at her sides. "I told her politely that it was time to start looking for another place. That's all. No threats, no intimidation. And now she's calling the cops? This is insane." Lauren's voice cracked as she clutched Noah tighter. "She wants me out of the house I've been raising my son in. How is that fair?" The officer let out a slow breath, glancing between us. "All right, let's take a step back. Legally speaking, if she's been living here for this long, you can't just evict her without proper notice." My stomach sank. I already knew that, but hearing it from a cop made it feel more real, more impossible. "I'm aware," I said tightly. "That's why I haven't pushed the issue. But it's been a year, a whole damn year. How much more time does she need?" Lauren's face crumpled, and for a moment, just a moment, I saw real emotion there, something raw and vulnerable beneath all the manipulation. But then she looked away, shifting Noah on her hip, and just like that, the moment was gone. "I'm just trying to do what's best for my son." Jess stepped forward, her voice dangerously low. "No, you're trying to do what's best for you." The officer sighed again, clearly regretting whatever shift put him on this call. "All right, no one's getting arrested today. But if we have to come back here for another dispute, we will have to take action. So I suggest you all figure this out peacefully." I nodded stiffly, my hands curling into fists at my sides as I watched the officers walk back to their patrol car. Lauren didn't move, didn't look at me, didn't say a word as she stepped back inside, but I could feel the energy shift. The battle lines had been drawn. I had given her a year. I had given her a home. But now, after everything, after this, she was officially out of time. Jess didn't say anything as we stepped back inside, but I could feel the tension radiating off her. She walked straight past me, heading for the kitchen without looking back, while I lingered in the entryway, rubbing a hand over my face. Lauren had disappeared down the hall, probably locking herself in the guest room with Noah. And for a few seconds, the only sound in the house was the faint hum of the refrigerator. When I finally walked into the kitchen, Jess was leaning against the counter, arms crossed so tightly it looked like she was holding herself together by force. Her jaw was clenched, her eyes dark with something between anger and exhaustion, and I knew she was waiting for me to say something first. "She called the cops on you," I said finally, keeping my voice low even though there was no one else in the room. She actually called the cops on you. Do you realize how messed up that is? Jess let out a sharp breath, shaking her head. I knew she hated me being here, but I didn't think she'd go that far. And the way she played it up, acting like I was some kind of threat, she knew exactly what she was doing. She wanted them to see me as the problem. I leaned against the opposite counter, crossing my arms. She's trying to make it impossible for me to push her out. If she makes this a legal thing, if she convinces someone that she's actually in danger, I could be the one forced out of my own damn house. Jess's fingers dug into her arms as she stared at the floor. I don't know how much longer I can do this. Living with her, walking on eggshells every time she's in the room, knowing she's looking for any excuse to make me the villain. I feel like I can't even breathe in my own home. I swallowed hard, the weight of the situation pressing down on me in a way that made my chest tight. I don't want her here either, but it's not like I can just throw her out overnight. If I go through the legal channels, it could take months, and if she fights it, who knows how long we'll be stuck in this mess. Jess looked up, and for the first time since we stepped inside, there was something in her eyes that made my stomach twist. And what if she doesn't fight it? What if she leaves before it gets to that point? I frowned, pushing off the counter. What are you saying? She held my gaze, her voice steady. I'm saying maybe she needs a reason to leave. A real reason. Something that makes her want to go. The way she said it made something cold settle in my stomach. Jess, I'm not talking about anything illegal, all right? I just mean maybe we stop making this comfortable for her. Maybe we stop tiptoeing around her feelings and start making it clear that she's not welcome here anymore. She's had a year. That's more than enough. I ran a hand through my hair, exhaling slowly. You think I haven't tried that? She's not stupid. She knows I want her gone. But she also knows I won't let Noah suffer just to prove a point, and that's exactly why she's still here. Jess pressed her lips together, shaking her head. It's not fair. None of this is fair. And the worst part? She knows it. She's using that kid as a shield, and she doesn't even care what it's doing to him. Before I could respond, a small voice interrupted us from the hallway. Are you mad at Mommy? Both of us turned at the same time, and there, standing just a few feet away, was Noah. He was clutching a stuffed dinosaur to his chest, his big brown eyes wide and uncertain as he looked between me and Jess. My stomach dropped as I stepped forward, forcing a small smile even though my head was still spinning. Hey, buddy. No one's mad. Noah's fingers tightened around the stuffed animal, and I could see the doubt all over his little face. Mommy's crying. I felt Jess shift beside me, but neither of us spoke for a second. Finally, I crouched down so I was at his level, keeping my voice soft. Mommy's just upset. Sometimes grown-ups have big feelings, just like kids do. Noah's lower lip wobbled. Are you going to make us leave? My chest ached at the way he asked it. So small, so scared, like he already knew the answer. I hesitated for half a second before shaking my head. Nobody's making you do anything right now, okay? Everything's going to be all right. Noah didn't look convinced, but he nodded slowly before turning and running back down the hall. The second he was gone, I felt Jess's hand on my arm. You know that was a lie. I sighed, standing up. Yeah, I know. Jess studied me for a long moment before shaking her head. This isn't just about Lauren anymore. It's about him. That kid is stuck in the middle of all this, and it's not fair to him either. I didn't need her to tell me that. I already knew. But knowing it didn't change the fact that there was no easy way out of this. And something told me it was about to get a whole lot worse. I barely slept that night. Every time I closed my eyes, my mind kept spinning, running through everything that had happened and everything that was still coming. The cops showing up was a warning, a sign that Lauren wasn't just going to leave quietly, that she was willing to go further than I ever thought she would. The fact that she was willing to drag Jess into this, to make her seem like some kind of threat, proved just how far she was willing to push the situation to stay in control. I stared at the ceiling, listening to the quiet sounds of the house, the occasional creak of the floorboards, the hum of the fridge, and somewhere in the distance, the faint rustling from the guest room where Lauren and Noah were sleeping. Every time I thought about that kid standing there in the hallway, clutching his stuffed dinosaur, asking me if I was going to make them leave, I felt something tighten in my chest. No matter how much anger I had toward Lauren, no matter how much I wanted her gone, I couldn't shake the feeling that this was hurting him more than either of us. By the time morning rolled around, I was already up, sitting at the kitchen table with a cup of coffee that had gone cold, staring at nothing in particular. Jess came in a few minutes later, her hair still messy from sleep, her expression guarded as she sat across from me. I didn't say anything at first, and neither did she, but I could feel the weight of everything unspoken sitting between us like a wall. Finally, she sighed, running a hand through her hair before looking at me. "So, what's the plan?" I exhaled slowly, rubbing my temples. "I don't know yet." Jess narrowed her eyes. "You don't know? Or you don't want to say it out loud?" I looked at her, and for a second, I thought about lying, about telling her that I had it all figured out, that everything was under control, but there was no point. She saw right through me. Always had. If I filed to evict her, this could drag out for months, maybe longer if she fights it. If I don't, then we're stuck in this nightmare indefinitely. Either way, it's not a quick fix. Jess leaned back in her chair, crossing her arms. There has to be another way. Something that doesn't involve waiting for the system to maybe do something months from now. Before I could respond, my phone buzzed on the table, and when I picked it up, I felt my stomach drop. The name on the screen was one I hadn't seen in months. Lauren's older sister, Rachel. I hesitated for half a second before answering, pressing the phone to my ear. "Hello." Rachel's voice came through the line, low and urgent. "I need to talk to you. In person." I frowned, glancing at Jess, who was watching me closely. "About what?" She hesitated, and I could hear the sound of movement in the background, like she was pacing. "Lauren, this whole situation. Look, I don't want to do this over the phone. Can you meet me somewhere?" I didn't like the secrecy, but something in her voice told me this wasn't just a casual conversation. I checked the time on my phone before nodding, even though she couldn't see me. "Yeah, give me an address." She rattled off the name of a coffee shop across town, and I agreed to meet her in 30 minutes before hanging up. Jess raised an eyebrow. "Rachel." I nodded, standing up. "She wants to talk." She wouldn't say why. Jess studied me for a moment before pushing back from the table. "I'm coming with you." I thought about arguing, about telling her that this was something I needed to handle on my own, but after everything that had happened, I wasn't about to shut her out. "All right." We left without saying a word to Lauren. And when we got to the coffee shop, Rachel was already there, sitting at a corner table with a cup of coffee she hadn't touched. She looked up when we walked in, her expression tense, and when we sat down across from her, she didn't waste any time. I know what Lauren did, calling the cops on Jess, trying to paint herself as the victim. I don't agree with it. Jess crossed her arms, eyes narrowing. "But," Rachel sighed, rubbing her temples. "But I also know why she's doing it. She's desperate, and when Lauren gets desperate, she does whatever it takes to keep herself from losing." I clenched my jaw. She's not losing. She's had a year. I've given her time. I've given her a place to stay. I've given her every chance to figure things out. But instead of trying to move forward, she's digging in her heels and making my life hell in the process. Rachel held up a hand. "I'm not defending her. I'm just telling you where her head is at. She doesn't see this as a breakup that happened a year ago. She sees this as an ongoing fight. In her mind, as long as she's still in that house, she still has control over the situation." Jess exhaled sharply. "So, what's your point? Why are we here?" Rachel hesitated, and for the first time, I saw something that looked almost like guilt flicker across her face. "Because I want to help you in this. But to do that, you need to know something." My stomach tightened. "Know what?" She looked down at her coffee, her fingers tightening around the cup. "Lauren has money. Not a lot, but enough to get her own place, at least temporarily." Jess blinked, sitting up straighter. "Are you serious?" "She's been acting like she has no options, like she's completely dependent on him. And you're telling me she could have left months ago?" Rachel's jaw tensed. "She has access to some savings. It's not much, and she won't admit it because she doesn't want to use it unless she absolutely has to, but it's there. The only reason she's still in that house is because she doesn't want to leave, not because she can't." I felt my hands clench in a fist under the table. Then why the hell is she still here? Why is she putting Noah through this? Rachel finally looked up, her expression dark. "Because she doesn't care about what's best for him. She only cares about what's best for her. Jess shook her head, letting out a humorless laugh. So, what are you saying? That we have to force her hand? Rachel exhaled slowly. I'm saying if she realizes she's out of options, if she knows you're not going to let her keep playing this game, she'll leave. But she has to believe it first. I didn't say anything for a long moment, my mind racing, the weight of Rachel's words settling over me like a storm. Lauren had the ability to leave. She had options. But instead of doing what was best for Noah, she had chosen to stay, to fight, to turn this into a war she thought she could win. That war was about to end. Rachel didn't stay long after that. She said what she needed to say and left, probably knowing that whatever came next wasn't something she wanted to be involved in. I sat there for a while, staring at my untouched coffee, trying to process everything, but the longer I thought about it, the angrier I got. I had spent months feeling guilty, feeling responsible, convincing myself that I couldn't just throw Lauren out because she had nowhere else to go. But that was a lie. She could have left at any time. She had chosen not to. Not because of Noah. Not because she was struggling, but because she wanted control, because she wanted to keep her grip on a situation that should have ended a long time ago. Jess was the one who finally spoke, her voice low but firm. You know what you have to do. I nodded, pushing back from the table, my jaw set. Yeah, I do. The drive home was silent. Jess didn't try to talk me down or tell me to cool off, probably because she knew I wasn't going to listen. When we pulled into the driveway, I didn't hesitate. I got out, walked straight inside, and found Lauren sitting on the couch in the living room, scrolling through her phone like nothing had happened, like she hadn't just spent the last 24 hours trying to turn my life into a nightmare. She looked up when she saw me, her expression unreadable, but I didn't give her a chance to speak before I did. I know about the money, I said, my voice steady, controlled. Rachel told me. Her fingers tightened around her phone, and for the first time in a long time, I saw something flicker across her face that almost looked like panic. I don't know what you're talking about. I let out a short breath, shaking my head. Don't. Just don't. I have spent a year giving you space, giving you time, making excuses for why you're still here. I let you live in my house for free. I let you turn my life upside down. I let you stay even when you made it clear that you were never going to move on. But this was it, Lauren. You called the cops on my girlfriend, tried to paint her as a threat, knowing damn well that wasn't true. You wanted to make this ugly? Congratulations. You got what you wanted. Lauren stood up slowly, setting her phone down on the coffee table, her eyes narrowing. So, what? You just gonna throw me and Noah out on the street? Just like that? I clenched my jaw, forcing myself to stay calm, to keep my voice even. You're not on the street. You have money. You have options. You just didn't want to use them because you wanted to stay here. But that's over. You have 30 days. That's legal notice. After that, you're gone. Lauren let out a harsh laugh, shaking her head. You think it's that easy? You think I'm just going to pack up and leave because you said so? Jess stepped forward then, her voice quiet but razor sharp. You don't have a choice. You wanted to play dirty, Lauren? You wanted to involve the police? Fine. But if you think for 1 second that we're just going to sit back and let you keep manipulating the situation, you're out of your mind. Lauren turned to her, her eyes flashing. You have no right to tell me what to do. This isn't your house. Jess didn't flinch. No, but it's his house. And he just told you to leave. Lauren's breathing was uneven now, her fists clenched at her sides. But I wasn't going to let her drag this out any longer. I took a step forward, meeting her gaze. You're done here, Lauren. I'll give you a month to figure things out, but after that, if you're not gone, I will go through the courts. And if you try to pull another stunt like yesterday, if you try to use Noah as leverage again, I will make damn sure that you don't get to decide how this ends. For the first time since all of this started, Lauren looked genuinely shaken. She opened her mouth like she was going to argue, but nothing came out. She knew. She knew she had lost. I didn't wait for her to say anything else. I turned and walked away, my heart pounding, my head spinning, but for the first time in a long time, I felt like I had control again. Jess followed me into the kitchen, leaning against the counter, exhaling slowly. I can't believe she actually thought she could get away with this. I let out a sharp breath, rubbing a hand over my face. She almost did. Jess studied me for a moment before shaking her head. She's not done. Not yet. I knew she was right. Lauren wasn't the type to go down without a fight. But this time I was ready. This time, I wasn't going to let her win. The days after that confrontation felt like they dragged on forever, but I knew that was just the calm before the storm. Lauren didn't try to start any more fights or cause any more scenes, but I could see it in her eyes. She was planning something, and I couldn't shake the feeling that she was just waiting for the right moment to retaliate. The fact that she was still in the house, still refusing to accept what was happening, made the air between us feel thick with tension. Every conversation with Jess, every interaction with Lauren felt like walking on a tightrope, and I could feel myself starting to unravel. Jess was starting to get restless too. She had always been calm, composed, and logical, but this was starting to wear on her. She started picking up extra shifts at work, staying away longer, and when she was home, she barely spoke to me. I understood it. I wasn't exactly a model boyfriend right now, constantly absorbed in trying to figure out how to get Lauren to leave without causing any more drama. One evening, just a few days before the deadline for Lauren to move out, I walked into the kitchen to find Jess sitting at the table, her arms crossed, a look on her face that I couldn't quite place. "What's going on?" I asked, trying to keep my voice neutral. She looked up at me, her eyes hard. "I'm getting tired of this." I frowned, feeling the knot in my stomach tighten. "Tired of what?" "You," she said, her voice low. "This whole thing. You think this is some kind of waiting game, but it's not. Every day that goes by with Lauren still here, it's making everything worse. For all of us." I opened my mouth to respond, but she cut me off before I could speak. "And don't even try to say that you're doing this for Noah, because we both know that's not the real reason. You're doing it because you feel guilty, because you can't let go of her. And it's not just hurting you, it's hurting me." I felt a cold lump form in my chest. "That's not fair, Jess. You know I'm not trying to hurt you. I know you're not, but that's what's happening. I didn't sign up for this, and I don't want to keep living in this mess. I've been patient, I've tried to understand, but it's like you're not even trying to make a decision anymore. You're just stuck." I stood there, feeling like the room was closed.